This video is kindly brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to create a beautiful online presence. Hi, my name's Janelle and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be attempting to make some of my favourite Instagram outfits. So instead of just clicking through and purchasing the items to create the outfits, I'm going to have a go at making them instead. So let's get into it. The first outfit I'm going to try and recreate for myself is this one here, worn by Stephanie. I just love this outfit so much and I think it's going to be perfect for autumn. I already have a turtleneck similar, so I'm going to have a go at making a skirt like this one to be able to create a similar look. So the skirt is quite a long midi length, and zooming in, it looks like the waistband is just a simple gathered waistband. The fabric I'm going to be making this skirt out of is this really cute ditzy floral rayon fabric that I'll have a link to in the description below. I actually recently shared a tutorial for a gathered midi skirt, and I'll be using a similar method from that tutorial to make this skirt today. First things first, I need to get my waist measurement, which is 70 centimeters or 27.5 inches. Looking again at the picture, it isn't as fully gathered as the skirt I showed in the tutorial, so I'm going to double my waist measurement to get the extra fabric to create the gathers instead. I'm also going to add some extra fabric at the top to create the waistband. So here are the measurements I'll be using for this new skirt, and follow this formula if you'd like to make a skirt similar for yourself. With my measuring tape and some tailor's chalk, I mark the measurements directly onto the fabric. And then I cut them out. I then cut out 4 pocket pieces using my pocket template that I'll have a link to down in the description. So all up, I have the following pieces. Taking the pocket pieces, I overlock the raw edges to prevent them from fraying. I then pin them onto the skirt rectangles approximately 20 centimeters or 8 inches from the top edge. I then stitch them in place and overlock the raw edges. Next, I place the skirt front onto the skirt back and pin and stitch them together along the side edge, making sure to stitch around the pocket pieces. I then fold and press the top edge of the skirt in by about 1 centimeter or half an inch, and then fold it again by about 5 centimeters or 2 inches. This will create the waistband. Next, I top stitch along the entire top edge of the skirt, and then I stitch 3 casings onto the waistband to be able to thread 3 separate pieces of elastic into. I share how to do this in a lot more detail in the gathered skirt tutorial, so be sure to check that out if you need to. Then I take some thin elastic and measure a length that sits comfortably around my waist. And then cut 3 lengths at this measurement. Then using a safety pin, I thread the elastic into the 3 separate casings to gather the waistband up. Once the elastic is thread all the way through, I stitch the 2 ends together with a zigzag stitch and then stitch the opening closed. I then repeat this step until all 3 lengths of elastic are threaded into the waistband. Lastly, I overlock the bottom raw edge of the skirt and hem it by folding and pressing the fabric up by about 1 centimeter or half an inch. And the skirt is complete. So, how does it compare to the original? Before we get into the next outfit, let's take a moment to chat about the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to create a beautiful online presence and run your business. I've personally been using Squarespace for the last 5 years to run the Rosery Apparel website and online store, and trust me when I tell you they make creating and running a website so stress-free and easy. When I first decided I wanted to create a website for Rosery Apparel, I was completely overwhelmed and had no idea where to start at all, and then when I finally discovered Squarespace, I was able to create a beautiful website with just a few clicks, no background or knowledge in coding needed whatsoever. There are so many beautiful templates to choose from, and each template is easily customizable with just a few clicks to suit your brand and style. So if you'd like to create an online presence of your own, then head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch your beautiful new website, head to squarespace.com/roseryapparel for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks Squarespace for sponsoring this video. The next outfit I'm going to try and recreate is this one here, worn by Noelle from Noelle & Fox. It's a beautiful tiered gathered dress in the most stunning green colour, and it also has this really lovely gathered neckline that I'm really keen to try and recreate today. For this dress, I'm finally going to cut into this beautiful sage green linen that I've had in my stash for a while and have been waiting for the perfect project for. A few weeks ago, I shared a thrift flip video of this blouse with the most beautiful gathered neckline, and I'm going to use this blouse as a kind of template for the bodice of the dress. I'm also going to make my dress with cute puff sleeves like this blouse instead. So, pulling the gathered elastic flat, I measured out all of the different pieces and components of the blouse. And by doing that, I discovered that the blouse is made up of 2 main pieces with the following measurements. So now that I have all the measurements figured out, I take my linen fabric and using a water erasable pen and my measuring tape and ruler, I mark out the pieces I'll need for the dress directly onto the fabric. And then I cut them out. For the tiered skirt, I cut out 2 90 by 30 centimeter or 35.5 by 23.5 rectangles for the first tier, and 3 100 by 40 centimeter or 39.5 by 15.75 inch rectangles for the second tier. I also cut out 4 pocket pieces. Next, I pin and stitch the sleeve pieces to the bodice pieces at the top side edge, creating a kind of tube of fabric. I then overlock the raw edges to prevent them from fraying. I then press the seams to make sure that they're lying nice and flat, and then I overlock the raw edge at the neckline. I did this to make the fabric a little easier to work with, as the linen was starting to fray a fair bit. So I now have something that's starting to look a bit like a bodice. Next, I hem the neck edge by folding and pressing it in by about 1 centimeter or half an inch, and then I fold it in again, making sure it's folded by enough to cover the width of the elastic I'll be using for the neckline, which works out to be about 3.5 centimeters or 1.5 inches. I then stitched the hem edge in place, making sure to leave a small opening to be able to thread the elastic through. Next, again using the blouse as a template, I measure out a length of elastic for the neckline, which worked out to be about 65 centimeters or 25.5 inches long. Then, using a safety pin, I threaded the elastic into the neckline casing, which bunched up the extra fabric to create the gathered neckline look. Once thread all the way through, I stitched the two ends of elastic together with a zigzag stitch. And then sewed the opening closed. Now that the gathered neckline is complete, I folded the front bodice onto the back bodice, matching the sleeve seams together, and then stitched them together along the underarm and side seams. And I now have a bodice that looks like this. Next, I hem the sleeves by folding the fabric in by about 1 centimeter or half an inch twice. To create the puffiness in the sleeves, I'm going to add a few rows of shirring elastic. I've shared a video on how to shirr, so definitely check out that video if you'd like to learn how to do it, but basically you need to hand wind some shirring elastic onto your bobbin and adjust the tension of your sewing machine slightly. Once my machine is set up correctly, I sew 3 rows of shirring about 4 centimeters or 1.5 inches from the bottom of the sleeve. The shirring creates an elasticated stitch which gathers up the fabric. Once stitched, I use the steam of my iron to shrink the stitching, which gathers up the fabric a little bit more. And I now have a bodice with some cute gathered puffy sleeves. Now to work on the skirt. Taking the pocket pieces, I overlock the raw edges to prevent them from fraying, and then place them approximately 7 centimeters or 2 3/4 inches from the top of the first tier rectangle. I then stitch them in place and overlock the raw edges. I then place the 2 rectangles together and stitch them together along the side seam, making sure to go around the pockets as I sew. Next, I change the stitch length of my sewing machine to the longest possible setting, and sew 2 rows of gathering stitches along the top edge of the skirt rectangle. It was at this point that I realised the bodice I made was a little bit too long, so I decided to trim it about 7 centimeters or 2 3/4 inches from the bottom edge. Then, gently pulling on the threads, I gathered up the skirt until it was approximately the same size as the bottom of the bodice. I then pin and stitch the bodice to the skirt with right sides together. Once stitched in place, I give the gathers a good press with my iron, and then repeat these steps for the second tier, starting by sewing the 3 separate rectangles together to create a big tube of fabric. Then I sew the 2 rows of gathering stitches, and then gather the second tier up until it's approximately the same size as the bottom of the first tier. I then pin the second tier to the bottom of the first tier, stitch it in place, and then overlock the raw edges. Lastly, I hem the bottom edge of the dress by folding the fabric in by about 1 centimetre or half an inch twice. Stitch it in place. And my beautiful tiered gathered dress is complete. So, how does it compare to the original dress? So I hope you enjoyed this video and that it's inspired you to have a go at making some of your favourite outfits instead of just buying them. I am so happy with the 2 outfits I've created, especially this beautiful gathered dress. I think it's just one of the most amazing dresses I've ever created, and I'm just so excited to have it in my wardrobe, and it just feels so much more fulfilling knowing I actually made this dress instead of just going and purchasing it. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a like and subscribe to this channel for more sewing type videos like this one. Have a lovely day and thanks for watching!